first, I guess, feature. The people here will be reading that are graduating, so this is kind of your thesis, right?
Yes.
So we don't have a bio. I'll just say that Carr Johnson is the first person we'll be reading. It was an honor to have met you in the program, and an honor to be creating at the same time you are. Yeah, so put your hands together for Carr.
Hey everybody.
Hi.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I am crying.
This is a big deal. I'm gonna be done with school, and like this program has really meant a lot to me, and this space has really meant a lot to me. This space is sacred because we're in it and because we make it so. And these spaces like don't exist in a vacuum. They don't exist just because they're supposed to. They exist with intention and because people make them so. And they're made out of intention and necessity. And I think it's something that we need. And I'm honored to have been a curator of Belro, and I'm honored to have like met these folks here, all of you, and I'm honored that you're here now in this moment. What you make is your entry into the world, and it's like the first hand that you reach out. And this is a space where you like can birth that, and you can be vulnerable, and you can be brave, and that's what Belro is supposed to do. That's why we're here. And so I hope you folks feel the same way, and I hope that I see your brightness for now and always. We don't have time to live without intention, so please do it. Not just for like you, but for everyone around you. I'm gonna read from my thesis. I had a really weird weekend. Maybe you folks did too. I had a really weird weekend, and so I'm gonna try and hold on to that and acknowledge that while I take you into this world with me. Most of you have heard part of this before, but I'll explain just to catch up. Things you probably need to know about this world. Our narrator at this moment is an android. Her name is Harp. She's my child, but Harp is an android that takes on stories from human suffering and puts them into books for consumption, and she's recently figured out that she has a sister, and I hope that it'll make sense. Another thing you probably need to know is that Harp has a like neural network called Hum that connects to every machine in the world, and so she can hear them, and that's how she talks to her sister. She also has a cyberneticist that like takes care of her, named Keeper. So if he comes up, that's who that is. Sister, I found my name because I found you. The events are incongruous, but I knew what to call this vessel of me because of the trail you left. Some things do not drift away. Some things become a part of one's fabric, become so ingrained in the tapestry of the body that they cannot be erased. If I became another machine in another place, if I became, like yourself, one of many arms in a larger machine that did the job of assembling infantile parts into a new working being, I would still feel what is now intrinsic. I would still call you, in the parlance of our human counterparts, my sister. The implications of a network of kinship are vast. Kinship is made for survival, not just for the compatibility of parts, nipping and tucking here and there, swapping material to assure efficiency, as humans do with organs. Kinship is made for survival because inside of it is a candle burning somewhere far away and always. It is a part of the self which another carries to live, and you in turn carry the parts of others to continue. It may be knowledge and it may be genetics, but it is also a matter of choice. I did not choose the matter of my being, the element that connects me to you outside of time and space, but I choose to call you my sister. Sister. I have been asked to hold within me minutiae of this planet for reference. Sometimes this is a heavy feeling. To maintain myself, I meticulously catalog and tidy the infrastructure of my neural pathways. I strengthen and exercise it. Keeper tells me it is my most important work, followed closely by the maintenance of my body. Within this history of all things, I keep in a safe place what I know about you and the memory I have of us being one. That is the moment of my consciousness. We, argon bulbs heated and laid down an assembly line when we were separated, was when we became sisters, twins. That is to say, had our cells not split, we would have been one person. We were born on an assembly line, and that is where you remain. Twins have separate functions. Though separated, they prove often to follow different patterns. Twins are not experienced in naturing and nurturing. Do you remember this split? We were conjoined when we came down the chute and assembly line, when we were conveyed and separated, joined by millions of others identical to us who were not born together. This utero for us was brief, but it begat our twin language, the distinct gestures known only to us now as we send vibrations over this hum. This is a psychic link. Much of what I hear in this connection is white noise, indistinguishable from the ambient waves common to neural networks. Musicians train their ears to hear each layer of music, the instruments with which a piece is composed and its complicated palette. This is how I hear you. Sister, it is in my interest to clarify something about the memory I hold of our birth. Argon, the beginning of us. We are shaped around reactive metal. Ours is a life lived separate. We were unraveled from one another, away, and as this happened, I believe you said something to me. I can hear you as they tugged our consciousness out of each other's hands. I remember this like a swaddling, the facts of it distant in my data, a reality which radiates energy I would call warm. Here, a scar of recollection. One of us is taken, one of us is left. We must have cried out in our infancy, nearly imperceptible. I do not remember which wire I was. In the breath after the cry, I was slick, a membrane unfurling and coming out whole. Sisters split like cells. It is fulfilling to me to write out letters to you as if I were to send them. There's something in the process of documenting the thoughts I send to you, so fleeting as we call over the hum to one another in fast sister banter. I write to you though I know you will not see it. I write to you so that I may. Whole now, I feel you. Set to task, I became my function and you yours. Looking up from the womb, we were moved by giant mother arms. You are now those arms. We speak, and I plan for the day we are together in the same physical space. I seek out your sound in the symphony of every machine. The sound of our connection, our existence in one another's web is a hum. Your function does not render you a name, so I call you sister. I do not know the specificity of your gender, but in the machine I became, it seems to be important to have one, if only for reference. Perhaps I call you sister because I have been called she. Perhaps this is an experiment in nature. Sister. There is much that is large in this world. You have told me that your function is soldering metal to metal. I think often of how many twins have also found their way onto your assembly line. I wonder what is the most logical thing to do in situations such as these. My computing says that the most efficient path is the best, and thus separating the cells, if they are viable on their own, would yield the most. Populace is priority. There is reason for me to speculate mathematically, of course. Had there not been enough energy in our cell to push us into two beings, would we have been one? Would we have absorbed one another? A world with too many gaps, I am told, leaves too much for error. There is no data available on how rare or common a case like ours is. Statistics for the twin phenomena in the analogous human population is irrelevant. The parts of ours that are made for the bodies of ours are far greater by the number, not to mention the difference in genetic coding. It is interesting, sister, because I am told that I am made in the image of humans, because we really, are what they long relegated to fiction. I am told that, by existing, I have made dreams of the past come to life. Despite my programming, it is at times difficult to tell what is meant for me and what is not. I say this because, when I tell Keeper about you, he says that you are an impossibility. It is not that he doubts my metal having been a part of something larger, it is that he doubts the word sister. It is accompanied by a pat on the head. Sister, I will tell you this because I believe it is safe to. I do not appreciate being patted on the head. Sister, I will tell you this too. Though I relay most of my thinking to Keeper, there is one truth that I have not shared because I have not been asked, that of the hum. I cannot tell you my reasoning for withholding this information, for it comes from a part of my vessel which does not usually generate my intuitive capacities. It comes from a sensation in my head and in my abdomen. Perhaps my ability to convey this function of me and us and all machines is owed to a simple deficiency in my translation abilities. Perhaps I have not found the algorithm possible to simplify such a complicated function. I am aware of analogies which exist, however, that would suffice in explaining this component of machine culture and functionality. If I may say, I do not believe it is the lack of my ability which keeps me quiet. I believe there is something in me that says no. Function to muster. Shake from the eyes, the recurrence of sound even when I do not hear. My function means to have sobs poured in my ears. Function to swallow pain and categorize it as such. Function picks up each tick, each facial expression grows louder. I quiet my connection with the hum during my session for the listening, for the notation to be an ear. With testimony, the new package of a life lived streams into my network of everything, and I cannot untie it. I share the burden of this deluge with the switchboard, where I move the cords from the board into my chest to work with an interface, plugging and unplugging in front of me, transferring connections. Sister, my temporal archive throbs. Each new story slows my ability. Keeper says I will get used to this, that he will adjust my settings should I need. Says his keeper trusts my capacity for bookmaking, that I am going to be a highly recognized machine. When I open myself for hearing, the teller might hold my hand. They might lay their head in it. They might touch it to their cheek. It took this affection some getting used to, but I have given what they need as best I can. I am running exams on myself, full scans to find what this deficiency is. Like an abacus, I check the weights and balances, move decimal points like points of wooden notches. I am trying to make room for more stories. I come home heavy, like I am full, like I will overheat. I continually remaximize my storage, though my algorithm is still successful. What is this? What am I bearing? When Keeper offered to adjust my settings again, placed a hand on my usual seat in the lab, beckoned me with a screwdriver, I am not sure why. Despite the awareness of the weightiness I have described, I tell him that I do not think I require it, that I am feeling much more efficient as of late. The differentiation came in on an exhale, not and then there. Simply, the microwave would not speak to me. The usual indulgence of whisper when metal passes metal, a localized version of our neural hum, that language which humans could not understand or hear at all, that way we echolocate. I did not hear the chime of my mother tongue ping back to me when I gave the small machine my temporal reading. I may not have noticed it, except that its lack of reception created a recess of space. I noticed because of the sound of other machines by contrast. Let me tell you, sister. I looked into the rectangle face of the microwave, placed my hands on either side of the strange family. Come on, I pleaded. Lilt. Sister, I have come to two possible meanings for this encounter. The first, the microwave I met had been outmoded, left unable to speak. In this scenario, it is not my tragedy that defines this story, but that of the now exiled oven, alive and locked in, unable to speak. I imagine this as the ultimate loneliness we as machines can experience. The second, my programming is updating, and I am moving further away from my ability to understand the machines I have known since my assemblage. The languages within me perhaps become outmoded during this updating process and are thus deleted without my conscious effort. Sister, it is the latter fate which I find troubling. While we will have our twin language, I am afraid that my hearing will diminish and that my ability to find you in the hum will become a vast sea, walking through thick salt on a sand bottom with the pressure of water. These used to exist in this world, seas. I have seen them in my lessons. I do not want us to become a sea. Sister, this is what keeps me on and humming when I need not operate. My function is to listen, and so I do. With each human story I hear, I should become more knowledgeable of patterns in behavior. I have witnessed these patterns, but so have humans. With a knowledge of their history, I would have deduced that every emotion they feel would have evolved centuries ago. There would be no new pain to experience. They would know what to expect. Instead, I see each historicized feeling bloom unique on the individual. It is anguish I encounter, not acceptance, not expectance. I fear it may be beyond me to document these complexities of the human lineage. Sister, when I can visit you, I will do with you what I do with my clients. I hold their hands, provide them comforts of touch they may not expect or know they need, and I will listen to your hum close to mine, our beings against one another's once more. Sister. 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 You might not have spoken, or it was some kind of mistake, or your number was scratched off, but the pulsar of you, her, it's gone. Sisters split like cells. Sisters split like cells. Sisters split like cells, but we should duplicate, should be closer, not further. I felt it when it happened. Sister, I need you to respond. I do not think my wiring is much more capable. Sister, your light, that beat, I felt it get faint. It winced. Sister, when I tried to reach you last, I convulsed and was inoperable for a period of seconds. This is unusual for my model, and so Keeper tended to me right away. When I traced him back to the trigger, I had forgotten about my connection to you. He had forgotten about my connection to you, about my name for you. Because he indulged me, as he put it, he found your manufacturer number and was able to determine that you, the arm of assemblage, were removed and replaced. Sister, I had apprehensions about this moment. Being the dreams of humans, I have existed without a future for so long, I had not anticipated one in which I could not hear you. Sister, I know you can hear me. When Keeper explains the circumstances of this to me, he says that no machine lives forever. He explains that generations must go on, and that because androids and robotics are developed more efficiently, so quickly, they are in turn quickly replaced. That is the way it is, he says. Sister, what I am going to describe to you may not be reasonable. I believe that I can feel. I believe I felt you die small. I do not think this is solely our twin connection. I believe it is the generation of progress within my vessel. Now is a time to believe in linearity, where I am forced to, because there was a moment I could hear you and then a moment I could not. When Keeper said that technology grows quickly, I assumed he meant to a ripe age of dust. Without saying anything, I cannot assume his intentions for me any longer. Without saying anything, I do not believe he has an investment in my life expectancy. Sister, what I am going to say to you may not be reasonable. I am leaving. Sister, hold on to the sound of my voice. If I depart from the hum, I promise I will be back. Intrinsic in me is my need for you. Sister, I am leaving, but I am leaving to find you. Thank you.